Hi there. Hey, welcome to K-Man's in Your Corner, Mastering Your A Game. We are here for episode 3, dropping a new episode every week, and your A game is all of the things that nobody can do for you but you. And that is the only place you have complete command and control in situations. It's usually why we're here, situations where it feels like you have very little command and control. So, we're here to talk about all things A game, and I am your host, attorney and coach Kimberly Mansfield. And last week we talked on Vocab Rehab Part 1, and this week we're bringing you Vocab Rehab Part 2. So last week, whew, that was intense. That was where we talked about less effective communication, specific examples, alternatives to that, upgraded alternatives, and the reasoning beneath the switches, why they work, why they don't work, why we cling to them so tightly. And I say intense, I mean, it is hard to let go of those things. It is hard to recondition your vocabulary when things are this important, heated, and uncertain. And you are not alone. You share that with every client I've ever met. And so we are going to make that easily. We're going to put more tools in your court to deal with. So if you missed last week, hop back over there, watch the episode. I fully give you permission. I don't think you lose anything if you're watching it at 1.5. And there's also a handout. Okay. Vocab Rehab Part 1. Scroll to the show notes, hit the link, get your handout for the table of some of those specific words we talked about and the underlying reasons. We're going to avoid them and make different choices. And trust me when I say I know this stuff is hard, but it habituates if you give it time. You're rewiring your system, literally rewiring your system, your brain. It changes. And it's just like you're changing, you're going to take these ruts where you're really entrenched and all your emotions are running the show, and we're going to switch them up so that your emotions, you still get to have them. That's human. I would expect you to. I never want to diminish or dismiss those. Keep them, but get them out of the driver's seat because you don't have to be a puppet to your emotions, and tools, mechanics help that. So this week is Vocab Rehab Part 2. Communicating powerfully on paper and in person. And this is going to be putting a lot of that stuff to work, but it's going to be a little more mechanical approach to the things that you do. And we're going to start off with in writing. We can get really mechanical with writing and make it easier for it to shift over into our verbiage and our conversations. And it takes time and you're going to slip. And this is an ongoing process and it's going to last your whole life. Buckle up. No delusions. It can make some pretty magical instant shifts. And the tools I'm going to give you today, really, they are free. They are easy. You can put them to work anytime on anything. Writing is super, super, super critical. And we need to communicate clearly and succinctly. Why is that a huge, huge, huge factor? We're always going to talk about incentives and opportunities, because to me, those are kind of interchangeable, right? Where we see opportunity, good opportunity, we have incentive. So when we're talking about the incentives and opportunities, why? Why do we do these things? Writing, we want to be clear and succinct, meaning clarity and brevity are currency. Because any reader, whether it's a judge or a mediator or the opposing counsel or opposing party or your own attorney, or you can take these are transferable skills. Maybe you're in the workplace applying these, right? Any reader, the last thing we want to do is make them work harder to understand us, right? Because one, they're not going to be super excited to read subsequent things that we write to them, right? Two, sometimes you don't get a second swipe at it. So seeing things, they need to be able to get things at first glance. You cannot bank that people are going to review or have time to sit down and marinate in the things you send, or to play Where's Waldo with the question, because it's buried in heaps of emotional narrative and irrelevant details and things like that. These tools are going to help you distill down to the most important points. And what that does, besides making it easier for the reader, always important, is it also, one, reduces the risk of poking the bear and inciting backlash. It gets you to step out of the volley of volatility. It allows you time to think. It forces you time to get very clear on what you really do think and what really needs said and what doesn't. All the time we do this, we're always working towards positive impacts on our chemistry and circuitry and linguistics. And I always talk about that. I go into it pretty deeply. It was pretty intense last week, I'm telling you. So I go into it pretty deeply on that. I am a neuroscience geek. And if we are ever not taking into account the humanness of the individuals at the table in any exchange, then we're leaving our utmost on the table. We can't get there. There'll always be something else we can do. Now, sometimes that doesn't guarantee an outcome, so to speak, but it improves the odds of getting a more positive outcome, and it guarantees that we will have positive effects on our own system. And anytime we're having positive effects on our own system, we're having positive effects on our kiddos. Because, and I explain this in depth, I'm not going to belabor the point. You can flip back to last week and get the science behind this. But the fact is, even if we're not talking smack about another parent or opposing in front of kiddos, it is oozing out our pores and they are taking it in, and it is having detrimental effects on their body chemistry, circuitry, and linguistics. So it's just multifaceted, the benefits of leveling up how we communicate. Now, today, I'm going to walk through these 3 tools that I'm going to give you. And because they are easier when you see them on paper, pop in the link in the show notes and download the handout there. Okay, these are going to be things you need to, because I'm talking about refining language. So I use practical exchanges between real clients, real people, okay, and the progress, the transitions they make when they're applying the tools. All right, so get that so that you can see these things laid out. When we're talking about revamping communication, it is hard to talk about it. At least it is for me. I would just sit here and I could be reading through them and you would be so in the weeds. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to briefly outline the tools, and then you are going to go get the handout and be able to read them at your leisure as you can sit down and sort of, contemplate, see how it's working, imagine how it might apply in some of your communications. Okay. And then the next step, of course, is practice. Take some of your communications and practice on these. Practice, practice, practice. I'm a huge Tom Billio fan. I don't know if anybody know him. My favorite podcast, his podcast, Impact Theory. He is intense. He does it straightforward. He pulls no punches. That's why I love it. I feel like he gets me further faster. And we have so many really quirky commonalities. I don't know what it is, but I freaking love him. Maybe because when I discovered him, I was like, oh, you get it. He says it probably much more poetically than I do. But in a nutshell, he says the most important thing that as humans we need to believe is that if we put forth efforts, we will get better. Effort, better. Which is ultimately true, right? Because if we don't do that, or we don't believe that, we will never get better at anything. And then we'll be stuck, right? Dead in the water. And we'll be pointing the finger about external things of why we could have, or we'll be living with that thought like, oh, I could have done this. I should have done that. I didn't pull out all the stops. My clients tell me they can't live with that thought. That's why they throw down. Takes a big dose of like really committing to open-mindedness and humility. This stuff stings. It is not easy to wrap your head around. Now, it is fairly simple, but it takes, the more you apply the tools, over time, it will become second nature. It'll start happening sooner and sooner, and it will be much less mechanical, but you got to start with the mechanics. And I'm going to give you some stuff to march through. So, a lot of writing going on in these cases, right? Whether it's emails or texts between parties, whether it's with your attorney, opposing counsel, mediators, judges, the court, whatever. There's so much writing. And we come to this, I mean, unless you were maybe an English major in under, I don't know. I'm sure some people are. I wasn't. I fully wasn't. So I work on this every single day. Every single day. This isn't something you get to a point of perfection and then don't work on anymore. I constantly work on it, but it happens a lot faster. A lot faster. So much more efficient. It takes less time. It's less laborious. It's less laborious to write. It's also less laborious for the recipient to read, digest, and kind of try to figure out what's important and what's not. The last things we want our readers, recipients to do. So just know, if you are taking this in, you are already ahead of the pack. And you've got this just by being here. You're already ahead of the pack and doing a great job. So let's get started. 3 tools I am going to talk to you about. First thing is spiral deletions. The second thing is bulleting for BAM. And the third thing is the 1 sentence, 10-second game. So here we go. Spiral deletions are, we take a body of writing. First of all, let me just make a blanket rule. Never, ever, ever send your first draft of anything. I think if there's a best rule to cling to 99.999% of the time, it is never, ever, ever send your first draft of anything. Do not hit send. Give it some time. Give it time to settle, get time to go back over it and pull out unnecessary pieces. And I'm going to give you the tools how to do that more efficiently and more effectively. Okay, so spiral deletions. I'm going to hit on this briefly. Stick with me because you're going to go get the handout and it's going to make so much more sense. All right, spiral deletions. We take a body of work and then we take or something we wrote, right? And we apply 4 rounds of review. And the first time through, and I'm talking body of work, just vomit on the page work, right? Sure. Or it can be something you're working on. Don't write with all 4 of these like rounds of review in hand and try and write to round number 4. Write it out, then apply this, okay? Round 1, review. You're going to go through, read over, review, and edit, and to eliminate any extra paragraphs, any unnecessary paragraphs. Are they absolutely vital? Are they redundant? Do they add? Do they feel constructive? Or are they repetitious? Are they emotional narrative? All of those, strike them. So now we've brought things down a little bit. Round 3, review. Go through and read for any extra sentences. Again, same rules. Are they redundant? Do they repeat something? Are they constructive? Do they add value to the communication? Are they emotional narrative? Meaning there's a little undercurrent of negativity, maybe? It's so nuanced. Sometimes we can say things, but if you read sort of the arrangement of words, and this is going to make more sense after you go read the examples, the arrangement of words, like, it's a little passive aggressive, right? Microaggressions in our, so what we think is perfect words. So you're going to be just scrupulous with your editing here, okay? And go nuts. You can take that, you can always put them back in if your writing lacks something at the end, or what you will find more often than not is you will whittle all this stuff down, and then you might find a piece that you can just plug into something you left that's actually sort of part of it, a subpart, or that expands on it a little. Your third review, you are going to read and review and go through, and you are going to eliminate any extra words. Extra words out. Are they just placeholders? Are they just sugarcoating things? Are they belaboring the point? Are they diluting what you want to say? Like, and you have to ask, is this word necessary to my thought? If no, strike it. Get down to the essence of what is necessary to encapsulate what your thought is, what your point is, what you would like to be heard and understood on. The next thing is we're going to go for review number 4, okay? And you're going to review 4 extra syllables. And until you see this in action, it's going to be kind of hard to imagine. Big tip-offs on this are any words with ing or tion or those type words. That's a clue. Start looking there and see if you can bring them to something that marches. It's what we in the law call active voice, okay? Where we're not diluting things. Instead of, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm not gonna start down that rabbit hole. I'm gonna let you go read them, okay? Go read them. It's so enticing, but I'm not going to. Why? Why do we do spiral deletions? Well, it forces us to clarify, all right, our own thoughts and understanding. Because sometimes we get into it and like, I don't know, this is kind of wishy-washy. And it doesn't mean it's not worthy. It means you need to get clear on your own points. And sometimes we get clear on what, don't really need, whatever, okay, take it out. Sometimes it's shocking. We think something is really important. And then we realize on further examination, it doesn't add here. It increases confidence in your own knowledge and statements. It forces us to eliminate emotional narrative. Get the emotional narrative out. That will do nothing but dilute your points. It is irrelevant to the court. Get it out. You are going to stick to facts, and the facts are observations and experiences as you observed and experienced them. They're your contrasting account of facts that are going to go into being heard and decisions being made. It lowers the effort required of the reader. I said that increases their comprehension and understanding. It reduces the risk of confusion, ambiguities, and it saves time. And when I mean saves time, especially where attorneys are involved, and that time costs money. I had a client who, when she first came to me, and she's like, I don't understand why my attorney like responds like this. I don't understand why I never hear back from her. I don't understand. And I looked at her emails and I was like, oh. So we went through and we started really, really, really applying spiral deletions, among other things, and got them down to where we stripped out all the emotional narrative, all of it, even the really sneaky passive aggressive ones. And they're hard. We all do it. Okay. I am not coming down on anything. This is zero judgment zone, but we can do it better. So that's what we're doing. And she looked at these and her hands went to her head and she said, she was a year and a half. She's in New York. She has a divorce attorney, year and a half in. And she said, oh my gosh, I could have saved tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees on my own emails. That's a tough pill to swallow, but she started overhauling this stuff. We dismantled things. She made templates out of the work we did, and then she started applying them. And not only did her attorney's fees plummet, attorney's fees allocated to that, but the responses from her attorney improved. That's how it works. And client is like, oh my gosh, it feels so much better. I would get myself worked into such a flurry. Right. And it's so true. So in your body, sometimes it's how does it feel? What's the right thing here? Which feels better? Is this working me up or is this actually calming and clearing my head? You gotta dial into this stuff. So again, go to the examples in the handouts, take a look, see. The next toy, it really gamify this stuff. Challenge yourself. Don't beat up on yourself. All right, you're doing a great job. That is the last thing you need. This is only about getting better. Okay, that's it. And this is in your case and life. These are all transferable skills. So, bulleting for BAM. This is literally taking things we write and read and bringing them down into bullet points. Very few words. Sometimes punctuation only if necessary. You're really distilling down to the absolute can't live without words. And oh man, so how do you do it? First of all, let's talk about that. You start with, you can start a bulleted list, and it's going to be by scratch that you're going to start putting something down in bullet forms, or it can be taking a writing and then putting it into bullet form. So use a bullet for each point you make, rearrange the bullets into some kind of order. Okay, whether it's chronological or whether it's just a simple sensical ordering or order of importance. Do not just throw bullets. I mean, you're going to start by throwing bullets in all over, but then you're going to rearrange them into something that makes sense. Again, you're making it easier on the reader. You're getting the reader to follow your lead, right? And then you're going to delete any bullets that are redundant or repetitive or that you just don't need, right? Things will jump out at you to go, this is really important, this is really important, that, it's just anything that is diluting. Either you need to find a better way to say it if you still think it's important, or you got to get it out of there because it's diluting your good points. You are going to review and re-review. So really what this does is you're kind of hopping and applying spiral deletions, steps 3 and 4. Okay. When you're going from a writing to bullets, you're really going right to cut out the sentences, cut out the words. I mean, cut out the syllables. I mean, you're modifying the sentences. So I guess it's kind of 3, 2, and 3 and 4. But sometimes with more complex things or things that you need to put in chronological order, sometimes you have something so long or heavy that you need to go through spiraling deletions, okay, all 4 steps to get to where then you can convert this into a bulleted list. Again, it forces us to get crystal clear on our own thoughts and wants and our reasoning for those thoughts and wants. It forces us to be succinct. It forces us to eliminate the emotional narrative. It decreases the potential for misunderstanding. It increases the likelihood of being read. Okay. It is easier and faster for the reader to grasp and remember. And again, it saves time and money, all those things. I love when my clients send me emails with bullets in them. Love it. Cost them less for me to read and try and ferret out. Seriously, sometimes I get things you'll read in the handbook. You'll read some of the examples, and sometimes it's like, where's Waldo with the question? And I'm thinking in my head, literally, cha-ching, because it's like, that's not really where I want to be spending my client's money. But I have to, because I have to try to address what is apparently appropriate for them. Important to them. But sometimes, we get in that rut of where things are really important. Really, the stakes are high here, right? But anywhere we do, we can start to think that everything's important. And if everything is important, nothing is important. That's the risk. So it behooves us to really dig in. And this sounds mechanical. It sounds laborious. Kind of is at first, but you will pick up on it faster than you think. And you will look at things you wrote and you will look back as you start doing this and go, wow, I wrote that. It's good stuff. And you can use it for the rest of your life. It just happens to be really critical here. So the last tool is the 1 sentence, 10-second game. And you grab a pal. And I do have parties who, with a willing opposing party, have sat down and done this, okay? But obviously you can grab a pal and do this. And what you're doing, this calms and clears our heads. And you're going to sit down with a pal and you can either pick a topic ahead. You just want to make it meaningful. You can improv it. I mean, it's a game. Have fun. It's uncomfortable and totally unnatural at first, okay? The point being, you're going to condition yourself to listen to understand first, long before you respond. And it will change how you respond. And it will change how you think and what you realize you think. And reasoning and, impulses you had. It's kind of wacky, but you got to kind of decide to play the game. All right. So you set a timer for 10 minutes and one person gets 1 gets 10 seconds, sorry, and one sentence, one unnaturally slow sentence, as in allow space between words. It's that slow to convey a thought. It's so uncomfortable is probably too strong a word. It's funky, all right? Feels weird, cracks people up. Yeah, well, that's natural, normal, exactly, right? And then you switch, and the other person gets 10 seconds, one unnaturally slow sentence. And you just keep going, no matter what, all right? 10 minutes will go by, and there'll be giggles, and you will scratch your head, why are we doing it? But resist the mind's urge to speak faster, to cram more in, okay? Because it's going to want to, I guarantee that. Resist the mind's urge to belabor what particular words and to kind of freeze and get all stopped up. Resist these things. Just play along. You have 10 minutes and 10-second intervals, okay? There is nothing riding on this conversation in practice. And you're going to be patient. Be patient with yourself. Kind of go along with the ride. Even if you don't get where this is going, go along with the ride, because here's what it does. It forces us to learn what we really want and need to say and what we don't. It illuminates unintentional motives behind our words. Oh, yeah, those sneaky undercurrents. Yeah. It teaches us to listen to understand instead of just listen to respond and snap back. That is not our highest best thinking. Hey, we're not as resourced. We, are going to be less creative, more likely to say something we're like, I could have done better on that. It imprints on our mind the patience and that space to work at its best. Decreases potential misunderstanding, reduces risk of ambiguities and potential for misunderstanding. And here's the super duper clincher. It lowers our heart rate and blood pressure. That opens oodles of doors because that's where we're best resourced. And we can think most comprehensively and speak and be and write most comprehensively. And that's the stuff coursing around our chemistry, circuitry, and linguistics. And that's good stuff that can spill out onto the kids, because it's spilling either way, folks. But that whole stressed out, spilling, getting yourself worked up, all that stuff, that's what we don't want to spill out. So here's another tool to help rearrange your system. And we can do that. We absolutely can do. Neuroplasticity says so. Our brain is plastic, not the kind that is bad for landfills, but the kind that means plastic just means it can grow and change and morph. Neuroplasticity. We are in the driver's seat to change, upgrade, improve our own wiring. And this is just another way to do it. So throw these tools in your toolbox, give a read of the handbook, and I would love, give me a heads up at Kimberly Mansfield. I would love, or DM, I don't care. Questions, comments, after you've read the whole thing. I wouldn't even mind if in the future, if it sounded good to anybody, to do a Q&A where I would actually let people submit some of their own writing, and we could do it in even a live, or I could do it on a video to work through some of these things so you can map it onto your own, because really the goal is to sort of develop your own templates and your own processing and the filters so that you can ask yourself these questions, so that you can read more comprehensively and more between the lines. And you can do this, all right? You're doing amazing. You have more command of all of this. And the sooner you start saying to yourself, I have more command of this, I can do this, I just am figuring out how to do it better. That's it. Wade in. Or act fast. Download this stuff. Take a look-see, give it a read, and try it on your own stuff. So this was Vocab Rehab 2. Communicating powerfully on paper and in person. Next week, next episode, we are either going to have, I'm divided. there are some thoughts that I may have a Vocab Rehab 3, and I don't even have a subtitle for exactly what that's going to mean. Or we may move on to train your brain. We are going to make a superpower out of the monkey mind that quite frankly is torturous and could be working for us instead of against us. So next episode, one of those tools will be running at you. So I hope you will be here. I will look forward to it. I will look forward to any comments, questions, feedback, and always tell yourself, you've got this. All right. So caveman's in your corner, mastering your A game. Now go be epic. I love that word. You are epically capable, competent, present, able, doing a great job. Talk to you soon. Thanks for being here. See ya.